subscriber has asked me to do a video on boredom in retirement. And boredom can be a big problem in your life after you retire, anywhere in the world, even here in Thailand. Many retirees have held down full-time jobs for 40, 50 years before retiring. I know I did. I was more or less working full-time from when I left school at 15 until I retired when I was 66. So yeah, there's not a lot of time left at the end of the working day to do the things you like to do. And I know I was looking forward to retirement in one way because it would give me time. My children would be grown up. I wouldn't have to work, obviously, and my pension would hopefully be enough to enjoy my life. And I was looking forward to being able to do the things that I couldn't do when I was working full-time and raising a family. I wasn't looking forward to getting old. I wasn't looking forward to that side of retirement. That's the last thing I wanted. I wanted to stay young and enjoy my life. And luckily, I'm still feeling pretty healthy and pretty good that in that sense, but that can change any day, as everyone knows. But when I retired here to Thailand, I envisaged that I would just sit on a beach all day surrounded by beautiful Thai ladies, sipping cocktails, going out on the evenings. But reality kicked in, and I found that, yes, I enjoyed those things, but I couldn't do it every day, 7 days a week. 1 day a week sitting on a beach all day is enough for me. But that's not what I thought when I came here. I really did think I'll just relax and do nothing for the rest of my life. I then felt that I needed to do something. Yes, I'd retired, but I didn't feel like I was ready to retire. I didn't feel as if I wanted to just sit at home or do nothing. I needed a job. And in Thailand, well, you can't get a job. That's part of the retirement visa. You can't work while you're retired here. And in fact, you can't even volunteer, because that was top of my list of things to do when I started to think about how I could use up some of my time. I thought I would volunteer. I thought I would go maybe to a catering school and offer my services, or perhaps just go to a restaurant and say, look, I'm willing to train your chefs in cooking European food if you think I could help you that way. I wasn't expecting money or anything like that. I just thought it would be good. I would like to see some of these young Thai people trained in different cuisines rather than just Thai cuisine, to expand their knowledge. But unfortunately, I found out later that I'm not even allowed to do that here under the terms of my retirement visa. I can't work, I can't volunteer even. And I find that a bit of a shame, because there's many retirees come here from many parts of the world, USA, Australia, UK, Canada, South Africa, and they bring with them a wealth of knowledge of their prior working life. Some of them might be engineers, some of them might be electricians, some of them might be bankers, finance, and they've got so much in here that they could pass on, but the Thai government, in their wisdom, say no, you can't volunteer, which to me is really a bit senseless. Why not? If you've got these people here, why not use something to maybe educate some Thai people who don't have that open to them? They can't afford to maybe enroll in a college. They can't afford to maybe go to university, but they can learn from these people who come here to retire. So after giving it some thought, I decided to become an author to try to relieve the boredom. It was something I'd always wanted to do, but never really had the time for. I worked at sea for a lot of my life, and it's a very busy life on a ship. You work a lot of hours, and when you do get a few hours off, the last thing you want to do is write a book, or the last thing I wanted to do was write a book. Time for sleep and eat, and that was about it. So I decided, okay, I'll see if I can write a book. The first book I wrote was You Will Never Amount to Anything, which was the words my teacher used to me the day I left school, that I would never amount to anything. I didn't write it to make money or to publish as such. I wrote it for my children and grandchildren. I was moving to Thailand, or I had moved to Thailand. I knew I wouldn't be seeing them as much as I would like to, maybe once a year, maybe not that often, depending on how far my pension spread. So I wrote it for them. I thought my grandchildren might not know me as well growing up, but if I write a book, they would be able to know about my life. It might seem a boring life to some people, but for me it wasn't. It was a journal of everything I'd done since I'd been born, and it was when I look back on it, as I was writing it, I realised what an exciting life I had led. So I was quite wrapped in writing my biography, and I would suggest to anyone out there, anyone who is bored, sitting at home, thinking, what can I do? Write a book about yourself. Write what you've done in your life. It might not seem as if you've done much, but when you sit down and think back, there's lots of things that most people have done, interesting and spectacular in some cases. So just write it for yourself. Don't write it for anybody else. You don't have to publish it on Amazon or look for a publisher. You can just write it. You can get one book printed. It costs you a few dollars. And you've got a book on your life, and anyone who's interested, perhaps after you die, will be able to read and think, oh, I didn't know Grandad did that, or I didn't know my dad lived there. So that's a good way to relieve boredom, is to start writing. I wrote the first book, and I found that I loved it so much that I was going to write more. I love travel, as you can see from my videos. I've been travelling all my life, and I still love it. I'll never get bored with travelling. I think I'll die somewhere in a train or an aeroplane or a ship somewhere. I hope I do anyway. When I go, that's the way I'd like to go. And even bury me at sea, that would be good. But I thought, okay, what can I write? I've done my biography. What else do I know about? Oh, well, I know about cookery because I'm a chef. But millions of cookbooks out there. How many times can you tell someone how to make a beef stroganoff or a green Thai curry? You know, it's like Groundhog Day. Just nothing changes. You know, yes, you can put a little bit different herb in or a different spice, but that wasn't a challenge for me. I thought, no, I don't want to write a cookbook. So what else do I like? I like travel, okay, and that's what I did. I decided that I'd write a book on retiring in Thailand, which is my second book. And the reason I wrote that book was to let people know what the good and the bad things about retiring to Thailand and how to retire to Thailand. It's not easy. The government put a lot of obstacles in the way, but you can do it, but it's not easy to do. I read up a lot on it before I came here, but I still made many mistakes, and it cost me a lot of time and money. So that book was to help retirees or future retirees who want to come to Thailand to retire. You know, how to buy a car, how to buy a motorbike, how to rent a motorbike, how to get a driving license, how to open a bank account, how to bring your things from another country into this country, all sorts of things like that. Cost of living charts, so people know before they come here how much things cost, so that to make sure their pension will stretch to the money that they're going to spend here. And it normally does. You'd have to be on a pretty low pension if you can't live here on a pension. So that was the next book. I then met a nice lady, and we did a tour around Thailand, and that was in the same series of books which I called the Retiring Thailand Handbook. The next book was same but different, about the best places to live in Thailand as a retiree or an expat. I think it was about 10 or 12 towns that I visited, or we visited, and you know, told everyone about, you know, the pros and cons, because it's not all good. There's some bad things in every town. Then I decided to branch out, and I thought, okay, well, retirement is not just Thailand, so I did a retirement book on a few countries like Indonesia, Bali, Philippines, Malaysia, Cambodia. Then the next book was about Central America, retirement destinations, Caribbean, Europe. Then COVID raised its ugly head and put stop to my travel plans, so I couldn't go and do research for writing travel books. I still wanted to write, so I decided I would write fiction. And I wrote a book, my first fiction book, I wrote in a series I was planning called Tie-Dyed series of books. And the first book was Tie-Dyed Murder in Paradise. And it was about a murder that happened during COVID, the first start of COVID, and the problems that caused with trying to investigate a murder. And it was based here on Koh Samui, and the hero is a Lieutenant Cha Son Sinuan, an incorruptible police officer in the Royal Thai Police, in unfortunately a police force that's rife with corruption. I followed that book with Bar Girl, another Cha Son Sinuan fiction book. And since then I've written maybe another 4 books. I think I've written 9 in total. So I did that. That's taken me 4 years of writing, and I did that because I was bored and I needed a challenge in my life. I needed something else to do. It's just getting up in the morning and going to the beach didn't do it for me. I thought it would, but it didn't. Then I got sick of not sick of writing books, but being inside and just sitting at a computer all day, typing away, thinking and editing. And I thought, I like it, but I've got all this beautiful, I live in Thailand, all this beautiful weather outside, all these beautiful places to go and see, and I'm sat inside typing most of the day. So I then started to look for something else, and I decided to do a YouTube channel, which is what I'm doing now. And I started that about 4 or 5 months ago, not in earnest. I did it just as a hobby and for something to do and to learn how to do it, and I'm still learning now. So I started this YouTube channel, and I've got some really good comments, and I'm starting to get some a lot more subscribers, which is excellent. But I enjoy that. I wouldn't say I enjoy it more, but I enjoy it as much as writing. But what I do like about it is that I can get outside like this and do something, not just sit inside. So that was the next step in reliving boredom. I then started a blog on Thailand, on retiring here or living here. Unfortunately, that's been put on the shelf at the moment. I just don't have the hours of the day to keep updating it, so it's sort of stagnant at the moment, but I will get back to it one day. Then the Phuket News did an article on me as a writer here in Thailand, and after they did the article, I got a call from Chris, the editor there, and he asked me if I would care to do a monthly column on retiring in Thailand. And I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. So I do that now for the Phuket News. I do a column once a month, just telling people about what it's like to live here, the ups and downs, the problems and the euphoria, the good things and the bad things that happen to retirees and expats, not just retirees, expats living in the land of smiles. So, while I've got your attention, please subscribe and push the like button. And if you know of anyone who's interested in retiring in Thailand or living in Thailand, pass this information on to them. If you push subscribe, it won't cost you anything, I promise. That's all it is that it will get me more noticed on YouTube. And every time I place a video onto YouTube, you'll get a notification, and you can then go and view what's happening in Thailand today. So what else can you do to keep busy during retirement to ward away that horrible boredom which can lead to depression and any amount of problems? So what can you do to stay that away, to keep it away from you? As you get older, obviously you get less fit, so lack of fitness can be a big factor in your life as your body starts to tell you that it wants to slow down. It's not 21 anymore. So to keep fit, personally, I don't go to a gym or anything like that. There was a gym in my condo before. I think I went in there once. I'm not a gym person, but I walk a lot and I swim a lot, and that keeps me active. And I find, even if I get up in the morning, if I get up at 5 in the morning, because being older as well, I don't sleep that good. 4 or 5 hours does me now. But when I wake up in the morning and waiting for the sun to start to come up, and I take the motorbike down, maybe 15-minute ride to a larger beach, that relieves the boredom straight away. I might get up in the morning and think, what do I do today? But when I walk along that beach and the sun's just coming up, that, I think, I'm not bored anymore. I just thank God every day for letting me see one more sunrise come up over the Gulf of Thailand. So that's a big factor, is keeping fit. And as I said, you don't have to go to the gym, you don't have to jog, but walking along a beautiful beach, if you live near the beach, or if you live in rural Thailand, walking along a beautiful track through the trees and the jungle is lovely. I've done that when I was in Isan. I got up in the morning, I'd walk around the lake at Isan, or I'd walk through some beautiful areas with lovely trees and plants, and you feel alive again. It's when you sit in your condo or your house and watch TV or just read a book all day. I love reading, but you can get into a bit of a habit of sitting and reading every day. So you need to push yourself. You need to get out there and tell yourself, wake up in the morning and say, right, instead of what am I going to do, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this today. And also, hard now with COVID, obviously, but to travel, just to go away for a weekend. I used to do that quite often. When my first girlfriend and I broke up 2 years ago now, there was a big part of my life empty, and she'd gone, and I wake up in the morning and not knowing what to do, where to go, because I didn't feel like my life was on track. So what I did, I'd go away for weekends. I lived in Hua Hin at that time, and I'd go somewhere like Ao Manao, to the temples down there or the beaches there. And as I said, this was pre-COVID, so it was lots to do. Not so much now. I was in Ao Manao not only a month or so ago, and beautiful as it is, there's nothing happening, but it's still good to get out of Hua Hin. It was still good for me to drive down there and stay 1 or 2 nights in a hotel, see something different, go to a different restaurant for dinner, walk along a different beach. So, there's that as well. Traveling, if you possibly can, to relieve boredom is a big factor. Because you get. I know I did. I get excited when I'm going to travel somewhere. When I drove from Hua Hin down here, say once a month, to come and see Noi, I was excited in the car. I wasn't thinking, a long drive, I've got to drive for 5, 6 hours or 7 hours, and then I've got to get the ferry. I was thinking, I'm going to see, driving down, I'll be able to stop and see some different things on the way down, and take the ferry across and watch the beautiful Koh Samui sort of come towards me, and and all the excitement of what to do when I got here. So yeah, travel is a big thing for me, and it could be for you too if you're bored just sitting in the same place every time. Another way to relieve boredom living here in Thailand is, instead of always making Farang friends from your country or from Europe, if you're born in Europe, you might have a lot of German friends or Italian friends or French friends, is to make Thai friends. It makes a big difference when you can communicate with Thai people and they know that you like them. You're not just here as a Farang to use them and just to live in their country and get what you can out of it. I find that the more Thai friends I have, the more I enjoy living here. I'm not big on having Farang friends, to be quite honest. Nothing wrong with them. I've got some good Farang friends here, but what puts me off is that I don't really want to go out and talk about England or Australia, because I lived in Australia a lot, or other countries I've lived in. I could talk to a man from the USA, and I've lived there, so I can say, oh yeah, but I get bored with it. I don't really want to talk about the country. If I like the countries that much, I'd be living there, not here. I talk to Thai people and I learn so much about Thailand, hidden places that I didn't know existed, and I learn about their lives, you know, and that makes me appreciate my life more, because I see the hardships that most of them have gone through compared to my life, and that makes me feel better about myself. I think, okay, yeah, Jed, why you complain? Why you bored? You know, you've got everything. You get your pension sent to you every month. It might not be a great pension, but I can live on it. But these people don't have that. So getting to know these people, I find out lots about them and about the way of Thailand, the ways that they live, what they like about Thailand, you know, about their king and their past king, their government. Some love them, some don't. But I get opinions, and it makes me appreciate living here, and that really does help me not get bored. You know, if I can meet someone new. I used to go to a place in Hua Hin called Ban Kun Po, and it was you get some Farang going there, but it was mainly for Thai people, and it's a big outdoor area surrounded by different food outlets where you go and order your food very cheaply, and you can order your beer and, you know, alcohol from the bar, or two or three bars there, and you take them back to your table and sit and listen to live music. And very cheap. A large beer there is 55 baht, the same price that you buy in 7-Eleven. So you can go out and have a very, very cheap night. But what I liked about it is quite often, if it was very busy, I couldn't find a table just for me. I'd go and say to some Thai, maybe 2 or 3 Thai people, would you mind if I sit there? And they always said, yeah, sit down, no problem. Sometimes they spoke English, which was good, but if they didn't, then it wouldn't be much communication, because my Thai is terrible. But if they spoke English, they would always talk to me. They'd always want to know where I was from, and I would learn about their lives. And I'd always get up the next morning after I come back from there and think, you know, I've made some new friends. If I see them again, I can go and sit with them, or at least wave to them and say hello. So I would say that's a big part of relieving boredom also, if you're living in a foreign country, is getting to know the locals. If you're going to get to know the locals, also it's a good idea to learn some of the language. Now, I'm not one to preach on that, because I've been that busy doing what I'm doing. I'm writing books and doing YouTube channels and columns for newspapers. There's not a lot of hours left for me to do much. And most of the places I've lived, this all speak, because I live in tourist areas, most of the locals do speak English. So I'm lazy, I didn't learn. But if you're living in a rural Thailand, or even wherever, if you've got lots of time on your hands, download an app, search for a school on air or online that you can learn, and learn Thai. You know, you're living in the country. Thai people really appreciate it when you can at least say a few words in Thai, and if you can have a big conversation in Thai, you've made a friend. So that's another good way to relieve boredom. If you sat at home, instead of just watching TV, improve your mind, learn a new language, and learn about the country even, you know, sort of see about the history of it. There's lots to do. My brother, he's dead now, unfortunately, God rest his soul. He retired and from working years at sea, same as I did. But he lived in London, and he never left London really, apart from going away on a ship to work. And you know, when he got back to and retired, he found London was, I know you shouldn't say it, but he found London boring, because he'd lived there all his life. He'd seen all the things he wanted to see, and he was bored. So he decided to do our family tree, and he got back to about the 1850s, I think. We got as far back as there. And he really enjoyed that. He loved doing the family tree. He lived for that. He couldn't get back much further, which disappointed him, but he then decided to enroll in college and do a screenwriting course. Not even college. He enrolled in university in Greenwich in London to do a screenwriting course because he always wanted to be a writer and he wanted to make a movie. At 65, he was just starting off as a movie director. Before he could finish it, unfortunately, he died. But that's what he did to relieve his boredom. He also, I remember him telling me one time when he first retired, he went and bought one of those things that search for metal, a metal detector, and he would go along the Thames embankment down in London early morning and looking to see if anything had been washed up or any old coins from maybe back in the Victorian time or Edwardian time. He would do that, and he had some interesting finds, not a lot, but it kept him occupied. He'd get up in the morning and have something to do, not just get up and think, oh, switch the news on, and then maybe watch TV for about 3 or 4 hours. So there's always something to do if you go out and look for it, and if you're fit enough. As I say, it's easy me saying, hey, I'm quite fit, but if some retirees are not fit enough to be, doing a lot of these things, but you're fit enough to sit at home, find a nice comfortable chair, sit outside and learn something, and try and improve your mind, try and improve your body perhaps by doing a little bit of exercise. I think boredom is a state of mind. It can devastate you if you give in to it, but if you fight it and start looking for things to do when you've retired, your life can be just as happy and thrilling as what it was before you retired, when you were working and enjoying your job. If you're a retiree living alone and you in a house or a condo that will allow pets, another good way to relieve boredom is to get a pet, get a dog or a cat or a budgie, it don't matter. It's amazing what difference that makes. When I first arrived in Phuket, after about 2 months, I rented a 2-bedroom condo. And when I arrived with my bags, there was a black dog sitting outside, which we called Dum eventually, because Dum is Thai for black, so I called him Dum. And he was sat there waiting at the door for me. The previous owner had just gone and left him, just gone back to Europe, and hadn't bothered to find someone else for him. He just left him, and he'd been living around the estate, getting food from different people, but always coming back to sleep at that outside the condo that I was taking over. So he made a big part of my life. I suddenly had a friend who was there every morning. I'd feed him every day. I bought a blanket for him and a little box to put him in so he could sleep outside, and a shelter over the top in case it rained. He wasn't allowed in because there were no pets actually allowed inside, but I kept him outside, and he loved. He really took to me, and I took to him. Unfortunately, when I moved, I couldn't take him with me, but I did arrange for a home for him, so that was good. When I moved to Hua Hin 2 years ago, I befriended a soy dog who was always sitting on the beach. Every time I walked the beach, he'd be sitting waiting. More so after I started to pet him and bring him food. He was there every morning and waiting for me, and that was, that made me get up in the morning, and if I didn't feel like walking, think, oh no, the dog's waiting for me. I called it Rex. Rex is waiting for me. And I'd already I'd buy a big bag of dog food, and I'd take a little bag down and feed him every morning. So having a pet in your life can make a big difference to you. When I left Hua Hin and came here to live, it's very sad because even though he was only a soy dog, it was, I knew there was no one else to look after him once I left. I did arrange with the security guard at the condos that I lived, because it was only down the road from the beach. I left a big bag of dog food for him, for the dog, And I said, would you mind just feeding the dog for me? And he said, yeah, no problem. He knew the dog as well, and they're very good with dogs in Thailand. The people, they tend to love them as much, well, more so than I do. Most people, they love pets, cats, dogs. So I left a bag of food, and then I send him a few baht every month now when he goes and buys more food and feeds him. So yes, getting a pet can help you a lot. You get up in the morning, you've got someone to talk to. You don't have to get up and talk to yourself like I do sometimes. So that's another big factor. If you are bored and you're sick of your own company, you can get a little pet. And if you're not allowed a dog or a cat, then you're allowed a bird, I'm sure. You can get a parrot or a budgie or whatever, and it's just a little bit of company. Or you can do what I did. You know, every town has too many soy dogs, every town. So, you know, you can befriend one, be careful, make sure it's one that's not going to bite your hand off. If all else fails, get a soy dog, you know, adopt a soy dog. And you'll see, when you come out and you go walking towards him, his tail will go like this, and he'll be so happy to see you, which, you know, makes you feel good. It makes you feel as if you're helping someone in this world, not just sitting around doing nothing. Another thing I like to do when I'm feeling a bit bored, sat at home, I get up and push myself and say, okay, come on, Jed, get moving, come on, let's do something. And one of my favourite things is visiting a temple. I'm not religious, don't get me wrong, not a religious person at all. But I always feel a much better person leaving a temple than when I did going in. The temples are so beautiful here. They're always, 99% of the time, they're in a beautiful area overlooking the sea or overlooking the hinterland. Always with a nice view, if possible. And when you walk inside, the architecture of all the gold and the Buddhists, the smiling Buddhas, not like the stern Jesus, which I was brought up with on a nail to a cross. The Buddhas always seem quite happy, and the monks are always got a smile on their face too. So visiting a temple is good for me. It relieves boredom, and when I come out I feel a lot better for it. Visiting historical sites. In Thailand has got many historical sites. You just got a Google search. Say I live in Koh Samui, I Google search historical sites in Koh Samui, temples in Koh Samui, things to do in Koh Samui. You Google search and all these things come up. You go to TripAdvisor, people who have visited Koh Samui, which is where I live, will tell you the places they visited and tell you if it's worth going or not. So you just go to TripAdvisor and type in where you're living or where you're staying. You know, Khon Kaen, type in things to do in Khon Kaen. Chiang Mai, things to do in Chiang Mai. There's always something to do. Even now with COVID, there's still many places to go which aren't closed. You can't go to tourist areas and maybe rent a jet ski or take a trip out somewhere. You know, the buses aren't running very well now, so you know, you can't do everything that you used to be able to do, but there's still lots that you can do. So that's another thing, you know, visit temples, visit historical sites, visit places of interest. You need to push yourself. Boredom won't go away by itself. I found that out. Working on ships, as I said, quite often there was days when I was bored stiff. You know, you get sick of being, even though you might be going to a beautiful place when the ship arrives, the bits in between. I mean, I sailed down to the Antarctic quite a few times, a research vessel, and also on a supply vessel. Now, getting there, when you get there, oh, it's magnificent. But the 4 weeks it takes to get from Hobart down to the ice can be quite boring, and rough seas, and you know. So I've spent a lot of my time bored being on a ship, but I've never bored on land because I can always do something about it. On the ship I couldn't just jump over and swim somewhere, but here in Thailand or in Australia, if I got bored, I can think, oh, I'll go and do this, I'll see this. You know, there's always something. Yes, boredom is a state of mind. You can get out of it. You just need to push yourself and say, look, I need to do this, I've got to do something, my life is not good. And yet another way to relieve your boredom, living in Thailand, especially if you're living in an area that's a tourist area. I'll have to say again, not so much now because of COVID, but that's going to go away soon. But you can visit a lady bar. If you're a single male, even doesn't matter how old you are, you can visit a lady bar. You might not want to take one home. You might just want to talk and just get out of the house. And I do that often before I was in a relationship with Noy, in between those two relationships. I would go to lady bars, as this was pre-COVID, 2 or 3 times a week. Not to take a lady home, but to sit and talk. Because sitting in a condo by myself drives you mad. You know, you can only write so many books, and you know, you can't do it 24 hours a day. Some days you need to think, oh, I've got to get out of this condo. So I would go out for dinner, maybe somewhere like I said before, Ban Khun Po, and then visit a lady bar and sit next to a lovely lady and learn about her life, buy her a couple of drinks. It don't cost a fortune, a cheap night out, but you know, you feel good about yourself, you know, sitting talking with a beautiful lady, and it brings back memories of when you were younger, when you were courting or when you had a girlfriend, and if the mood takes you, you can always take her home as well if you feel like it. So if any of you people out there, expats, retirees, have any hobbies or anything that you like to do when you're feeling bored, please put it into the comments box and I'll pass it on to my subscribers. Thanks so much for your help.
Through the fields of our paths, feelings part our ways, keeping us close but estranged now. Dreams holding us closer, meadows of our youth, 107 days, but recalling it backwards. Our dreams holding us closer.